Hi there, and welcome to Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. You're watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. Please, I'd like you to do us a favor. Go ahead and subscribe to Citizen AY on YouTube. Hit the notification button, and of course, give us a thumbs up. Help us reach more people. We really need your support. Thank you so very much. Continue to subscribe to Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. And of course, we continue to urge you to, we must demand and ensure we pursue justice for Mohbad. The picture they see in the side there, we're gonna just we're gonna leave that picture there as a sign of a mark of respect for justice for Mohbad. Let me just move that up a little bit so you can see his face as well. This broadcast here, you're gonna see. We're going to talk about France. France. Mohbad is a musician, a young talent that died in suspicious circumstances in Nigeria, and there's been a lot of candlelit vigil for him around the world. So, and this was days before he died. Apparently, somebody gave him water, which was really we don't know what was in the water, and there's some talk about him being injected by a nurse that he died and he was hurriedly buried and all that. So we're saying justice for Mohbad. Mohbad he's a great talent, and he was known as like Imole, which is like a shining light. Imole in Yoruba means light, a shining light. And his words are very prophetic in some respects. Some would even say he predicted his own death, if you like. And he's actually called out people. If he said that if he died, when he dies, there are people that they should be held to account, and he mentioned names. I'm not going to mention the name here because I don't have the evidence and everything, but he mentioned that. But anyway, now we're going to change gears. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to Citizen AY on YouTube, the platform where we speak truth to power. What I'd like you to do for me is please go ahead and subscribe, hit the notification button, and of course, give it a thumbs up. So this is what I would like you to do most of all. Let us proceed with this broadcast. You're hearing that the French now are going to withdraw troops from Niger. But when you listen closely, it's not going to be immediate. No, it's going to be, they said, by December. Now, a lot can happen between now and December. I don't think we should, take those words as words that are going to mean anything, to be honest. But let's listen to a short clip and we'll come back and dissect that. This is by BBC. 1 second, please. I want to make sure I got everything in as should be. Don't want to. We go. Okay, so we just want to, let's have a listen to it and let us see what it says. 1 second, please. Give me 1 sec. Okay. Okay. So there we are. Now let's listen now. Here we go.
News coming out of Niger today is that President Emmanuel Macron has announced that France will end its military presence in the country. It will remove its 1,500 troops stationed there by the end of this year.
So they had 1,500 troops stationed there. Why are you having 1,500 troops stationed in a so-called sovereign nation? And they've repeatedly asked you to leave, but you refuse to leave. This is proof for many African countries that we should understand that this so-called independence that we have in Africa is a fraud. It's a fraud. They're either using in the case of the French. Oh, right, okay, we will tell you what to do. We will tell you who to meet. We will force reveal that visa and everything else. And the others who are using soft power. So actually, we want you to. They get the head of those countries, for example, to invite their military for some sort of a military exercise, they say, and for extended periods of time. And then you think, oh, they're independent. It's all a game. Just keep note. France has no business being in Niger, and it's right for Niger to demand its absolute sovereignty. It's because it's a sovereign. France has looted long enough. For over 40 years, they've looted uranium and all of the many mineral resources that they have. So the Niger people are absolutely right, and we support those who are in government now to in carrying out what I like to term intelligent and intellectual realignment, whereby they're saying, no, we want to be in control of our resources. The colonial powers cannot continue to retain control of our resources and tell us that we're free. It doesn't make any sense. It is wrong. So yeah, France should leave. About time. But let's just watch this space. Don't be surprised if France are looking for ways and means in which they're going to remain. If they're saying they're planning to leave in December, time will tell. Let's all keep an eye on that and see that they indeed leave. They must leave. Not only Niger, Africa. Colonials must leave Africa. Africa have been oppressed long enough, and it's time Africans are waking up. So we urge you us all, to continue to wake up. We need to ensure that we are true sovereigns on African continent. No African is interested in interfering with the sovereignty of Europeans in Europe, and so we should not accept any Europeans determining the future of Africans on African soil, and then taking our resources and then and looting from us day by day and expect us to remain quiet. No, we mustn't accept that. Listen on.
In a televised interview, Macron announced plans to withdraw the French ambassador and several other diplomats from Niger within hours, followed by its military contingent in the coming months. It comes in the wake.
You see, within hours and then in the coming months. You see, if you're not removing your military military men immediately, a lot can happen. So I would urge the people of Niger to really be steadfast, be focused, ensure that you chase away the colonials, unwanted, the people have spoken. They don't want France on their soil. And many African countries don't want colonial interference because the colonials have caused wars. They are the ones who are funding terrorists. They are the ones, in so many cases, the destabilization of Africa is being caused by these colonials. So many countries are now waking up and realizing that, no, we need to be on our own. We don't want any interference. France has been looting for over 40 years from many African countries. They've taken their wealth and lent them back, money that they took forcibly from those people and their resources, and paying pittance for our resources. Enough is indeed enough. Africans, we must rise. Africans arise. Africans arise. Africans arise. Ashe, ashe, ashe.
Of a military coup in July that saw the ousting of the country's elected president. Mr. Macron has refused to recognise the junta as Niger's legitimate authority, but said that Paris would coordinate the troop withdrawal with the coup leaders.
La France a décidé de ramener son ambassadeur.
France has decided to bring back its ambassador, and so in the coming hours, our ambassador with several diplomats will return to France. And we are ending our military cooperation with the de facto authorities of Niger because they no longer want to fight against terrorism.
Well, James Barnett is seen.
Can you see how they frame that? They no longer want to fight against terrorism. Let's make it very clear. I think people need to understand. France, under the guise of keeping peace in many African countries, they are the ones who are actually funding the terrorists in Africa, in many African countries that they are in control, so that they can continue to have access to our resources. And that's how these things work. Many people don't want to say these things, but we need to call it out like it is. And we must, as a collective, collectively as Africans begin to ensure that on African soil, we need to have absolute control of our resources and our land to the exclusion of the colonials. That must be what must happen. So kudos to Niger for the work that they're doing here in actually, telling the French to go out. Of course, we have to keep an eye on them because in the months that they say they're going to move out the military, a lot can happen. But we need, as Africans, we must say no. We want to be in control on our own soil, and we need to join hands. We need more countries, more African countries, to step up and tell the colonials to leave their land and actually begin to use our resources to benefit our people. In the case of France, France has been using the uranium that it gets for free from Niger, from Chad, from Gabon, and from Burkina Faso. They've been using it to power not only France, but the entire Europe. They've been doing that. And our people are in darkness in Africa. So you see why it is important for us to unite in Africa. We must unite collectively in Africa to begin to ensure that our resources benefits us first and foremost. Nobody's interfering nobody's interested in interfering in Europe. Europe must leave Africa alone and let Africa, and Africa must define our own territories, our own borders, what goes on in our territory without interference from the colonials. Let's go forward.
Senior fellow at the conservative think tank, the Huston Institute, and explained why he believes that this is a win for the military authorities.
It just goes without saying. It's a win for the Niger, for the people of not the military. It's for the people of Niger. It's a win for them because they've supported the military, because they know that France and indeed all of the colonial countries have been these colonial powers have been exploiting Africa for hundreds of years, and we're saying enough.
The junta, for the past 2 months, there's been this kind of very tense standoff between France and the de facto authorities in Niger.
Can you see? Hang on, is Niger part of France? Have we ever, those who are, this man talking now, is Niger part of France? Is it? Why is it that France is insisting that it has its own forces on ground in a sovereign nation? Why? It's because they want access to our resources for free, using military to scare the people. Well, Africans are waking up. We must continue to wake up and make sure that we support those in our nation that are standing up for the people. The people, those puppets in place, all of them must be moved from Africa, because they are the ones who are doing the bidding of the colonials and oppressing and suppressing Africans. The resources of Africa is what is powering Europe. They are currently trying to power gas from Nigeria to Europe via via Morocco, and then into Spain and all of that. Meanwhile, we don't have enough power in Nigeria. What kind of economic madness is that? When you have gas and you haven't got power at home, instead of making sure people have power, you now pipe that the gas across Europe and across Africa. And that's why Niger is saying no. But no, they're worried about it. They want to force Niger to say yes. And these are the kind of things that we're facing. We don't have power enough, but our gas is being piped to keep those colonials lights on in Europe. The lights of Africa must come on first and foremost with African resources. That is the mindset that we need to inculcate in each and every one of us.
And the junta has essentially been...
No, they're not junta. They're not junta. We need to start challenging their narrative. We must challenge. They're not a junta at all. They're not a junta at all. They are carrying out what I termed at the beginning of this broadcast intellectual realignment, because it is clear to us that the colonials want to install puppets that will continue to allow them to loot African resources from Africa, preventing Africa from developing. And it is time that we, the people, be alert to that. We need to join hands. This is the task for every African, to begin to wake up within our communities, particularly make people understand that these colonial powers mean us serious harm collectively. Many people who are ending up in Europe is a direct from Africa, is a direct result of the exploitation of African resources at peanut prices, at dirt cheap prices, as said by Professor Howard Nicholas from Holland. They want to buy our resources at dirt cheap prices. And the impact of that is that we don't get the value of our resources. And our people end up trying to come to Europe. And the same people who are looting from Africa will sell us, oh, you can't come in. You can't come in. Can you see the hypocrisy? And that is why we need to, as Africans, begin to understand how these things are really put together. There is economic warfare going on right now in Africa, against Africa on African soil. There is economic warfare on African soil against Africa by the colonials on African soil. And we need to collectively put an end to that. The only way we can achieve that is when we come together as one. We must act as one, because those who are oppressing us, they are acting as one. Don't for 1 minute believe that France is acting alone in exploiting the resources. What France exploits, Europe benefits. Let me ask you a question again. What currency is France using? Is it not euro? But yet, France will print CFAs for 14, let's say 10, 11 African countries now, because Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, and Guinea have left. Let's say 10 countries. They on the West African, in West Africa. So 10 countries, let's say, have are still under control of Africa, and France doesn't use the CFA, but they print. How dare! Can you see the hypocrisy? Are you not waking up? Are you not realizing, Africans, we must wake up? Our currencies, we must dictate the terms, the rate, everything ourselves. We must be in absolute control. No longer must we accept anybody any colonials coming to dictate the price of the rate of our own currency, because they use it to depreciate the value of our currency and make our mineral resources dirt cheap for them to export. I've showed many instances of that. One second please, let me show you what I mean here. Yeah, so I'm just showing what I mean. As I speak to you right now, one West African CFA is only worth 0.0015, not even up to 1 cent of the euro. Yet, France are the ones printing CFAs for African countries. What business does France have in printing CFAs for African countries? They're not in the same territory. They have no business controlling the African currency. And this is the thing we need to wake up to. So I'll be showing this as much as possible. Look at that. So that means that whatever resources, they said 1 kilo of uranium before was being sold compulsorily. France was compulsorily telling Niger to sell 1 kilo of its uranium at 80 cents. Right now, because Niger has taken over its control of its land, control of its resources and its land, Niger are now able to sell, and they're indeed selling the uranium. 1 kilogram of uranium is now being sold at 200 euros. 200 euros, not 80 cents. So you can see the trickery that is involved. This is why we need to support what Niger is doing, and we need to alert other African countries to do exactly what Niger is doing and begin to take intellectual realignment all across Africa, because Africa is not free. That's the reality of what we face. And let's carry on. I just want to just show you that as we speak now. So when they talk to you, Europe means, well, they are reducing and devaluing they even fix the currency. All African countries must pull away immediately from the CFA. And we need to have one African currency. We must have that. We must. Because that is the way we can take back control, and because we've been divided up by the colonials, of French speaking, English speaking, and that keeps us divided, so we never really understand what is going on. I'm showing you what's going on right now. Wake up, my people. Let's listen on.
Playing hardball against France, which has been insisting that President Bazoum.
That's the people of Niger collectively every day saying, France, we don't want you, because we know that you are looting our resources. You've been looting our resources for 40 years. But that narrative you not hear from the likes of this so-called expert that is talking, because they don't want you to know the truth. Africans, please subscribe to platforms like ours, Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. We're speaking for Africans. We want to be your voice. We want to be able to give you real news that will make you be able to know that you have a voice and you have the power to stand together collectively as Africans to benefit from your resources within Africa. We're not saying to go to Europe and exploit them. No, we're saying to use our resources to benefit us first and foremost in Africa. And that is our right. And we must defend and work to achieve that aim collectively.
Be reinstated. The French have kind of not taken the military option off the table, and so as long as there were French,
they have not taken the military option off the table. The French have no business in being in any part of Niger or indeed any part of Africa, because that's not their nation. The French should go back to France and leave Africa alone and stop forcing us to use CFA, Central African francs, West African CFA. All of that is a design to ensure that Africa sells our resources at dead cheap prices. I just told you, 1 kilogram of uranium, France was forcing Niger to sell them at 80 cents. The market value for uranium, 1 kilogram, is 200 euros. You work that out. That is daylight robbery. Africans, we need to wake up. Please share this broadcast. You're watching Citizen AY, the platform where we speak truth to power. Let's go ahead.
Forces within Niger, as long as the French were insisting that their ambassador should remain within Niger.
France has no right to insist. Can you imagine any African country saying, no, we're not going to recall the ambassadors? They will kick them out. In any part of Europe, they will be kicked out. But France has the audacity. And that tells you that Africa is not free. The only way we can be free is to unite as one entity, one continent. We must unite and kick out this bunch of looters, colonial looters. We must kick them out of Africa. They have looted long enough.
There was kind of this question mark surrounding the whole situation of might there be a French military intervention or a French-supported West African military intervention via the...
Yeah, let me say this. West Africa, the Ecowas, Economic Community of West African States, is only, they are puppets. They are puppets of the colonials, i.e. the French and who else, and other colonials. They are working for them. And it is time we, the people, start working for us collectively to kick out and send a message to all of those who are in those bodies that we know your game now. You are colluding with those oppressing us in our land and keeping us impoverished. And we know your game. We will expose you, and we will ensure that we support those who are carrying out intellectual realignment to benefit the African people of their resources. We've had enough of this. Let us join hands. We need one united Africa desperately right now. So let's work towards that collectively.
Ecowas regional bloc. And so now I think...
See the group of people there. See the group of people there. Just notice the group of people right there. Notice how people are, the Niger people are coming out and supporting the intellectual realignment carried out by the military there, who recognize that they are being oppressed in their own land by the colonials. Notice the number of people. They've had to put it in their broadcast because they cannot ignore it anymore. And that is telling you a message. Every African watching this, please share this to every community that you know. Let them know that Africans are rising, we're waking up. We have the power to stand together and kick out the colonials, just like Niger is doing. We must replicate what Niger has done right across the whole of Africa, bar none. We must.
Essentially, France is kind of, admitting, at least for the time being, that, it's kind of...
Did you see? For the time being. And that is why I say between now and the so-called December, when they said the military will pull out, anything can happen. And that's why we have to be vigilant as Africans. We don't want France, all of this. Look at the amount of people who are dying in the Mediterranean, black people dying and Africans dying in the Mediterranean, because they're thinking there's a better future for them in Europe. Not knowing that Europe has actually been the one who has been responsible for impoverishing them to such an extent that they've had to flee Africa. We need to reverse this now. We must take control of our resources. We must provide our own safety and security as Africans. We cannot put it in the hands of the very people who have exploited and colonized us for hundreds of years. We must collectively work together and put a stop to this once and for all. We encourage more Africans to wake up, and more African so-called countries. We need to unite. We must go back to the ways of our ancestors, the great kingdoms that they built. We have it in our DNA, and we can achieve this collectively. But it begins in the manner in which Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Guinea, what they've done, Gabon, and we'll come back on that. But let's listen on. So just see the amount of people on the streets. That tells you they cannot ignore that. And they're going to try and find instead now they're saying they're going to move. Between now and December, mark my words, the French will be looking for ways in which they can get themselves into the system and control, so that they can continue unfettered access to our resources. It is time we really wake up as Africans. We must be free in Africa, because we have to build a better future for the coming generation of Africans collectively. Let's listen on.
Have lost its influence in the region, that it is unable to alter the political dynamics in the country, that is unable to achieve its objective, which is to reinstate the democratically elected.
You see, to achieve its objective. Bazoum was not democratically elected. And let us understand, you see, when they talk about democracy in Africa, it is not democracy. They're not interested in democracy. We need to really understand this. When they come with their cap and they say, oh, democracy, we are fighting for democracy. They're not fighting for democracy. Every colonial that is in Africa, they are there to do only one thing: exploit mineral resources from Africans. That is it. All the contracts, everything they're signing, and every action they take is to take our resources for free at dirt cheap prices, at the expense of the people. The Congo, South Africa, Nigeria, Niger, Chad, Gabon, everywhere you look, It is about only one thing. They're not interested in democracy. Africans, we need to understand, they're not interested in democracy. When it comes to Africa, they're not interested in democracy. They're interested in exploiting our resources, putting puppets in place that will allow them to exploit and take our resources out of Africa. We need to be very, very clear about this as Africans. And I want to state that seriously. This is the point that we must all take. And every African on the African continent right now, we must connect. We must find a way to connect with the four. I'm really glad that Mali, Niger, Burkina Faso, and I think Guinea have signed, maybe not necessarily Guinea, but if they're not in it, they're part of the pact, signing that if you touch any of them, you touch all of them. Because that is what they're doing in Europe. Europe is doing one for all and all for one. And it's time we in Africa start doing all for one and one for all right now. If they touch any African, it affects all of us, because the exploitation of African resources that has been done for over 40 years has impacted the lives of every single African. We need to be very, very clear about what is going on. So please, let us support what Niger is doing here. I'm glad that Niger has told France to leave. Every other African country must equally do the same to all the colonials who have, under the guise of democracy, exploited and looted from Africa. They are not interested in democracy. They are only interested in one thing: African mineral resources. Let us get that very clear.
To President, my guess is that now, there's going to be some sort of discussion about.
You see the way they are putting this now. Look at the setting. They are putting the setting of what they really want to do in a non-threatening manner. If you look behind that guy now, oh, he's talking well, is everything else. It's all about putting in something in the mindset. Oh, look, there's innocent. They have no aim really to do anything against you. There's none of that. It's hidden. This guy talking is part of the whole system as well. We need to be very, very clear about that as Africans and then identify how they work. We must know how they roll and begin to explain this to our people so that we can be alert to what they are doing. The exploitation of Africa has gone on long enough. Our people have suffered needlessly. The land with the richest resources in the world, 30% of the world's resources is in Africa, and yet Africans are poor. We must collectively work together and put a stop to that. Africa is indeed an oasis. They don't want it to matter. The garden that they so desire for Europe to be. That is what Africa really is. And that is what we must collectively work together to make sure that it becomes an oasis for our people to benefit from our resources collectively. So kudos to Niger on insisting and ensuring that the people that they want to leave, the colonials, the looters, that they are indeed leaving. But more so, they must keep an eye on the military. The military must leave, and they must continue to put every effort possible to make sure that the French military are never allowed to feel comfortable in Niger. They have to go back to France. They are French people. They must be protecting France. They must not be coming to Niger and exploiting Niger at the expense of the Niger people for France. That is actually going against the UN Charter. But many people, because as we know, France, UK, US, they are permanent members of the UN. So nobody will challenge France. You can say whatever. Once all France has to do is to veto it. So you can complain all you want. And this is why we need to change our mindset in Africa. The people must come together and kick out every single colonial and their puppets from Africa so that Africans can begin to benefit from our resources. Let's go forward.
Whether Bazoum can,
You see, they're still planning for Bazoum or somebody around to come back. That's what they're doing. They're playing for time. So people of Niger, be at alert. Be at alert. Do not rejoice now that France have said they're going. They are only playing for time. They are merely playing for time, and we have to be alert to it.
Can exit the country with his family, that he can get exiled somewhere out of the country, because of course, so long as he's in the country, the junta is going to use him as a bargaining chip.
You see what they're doing now. So they're saying they're going to use him as a bargaining chip. So what they're trying to do is to present this face that Europe is really interested in democracy in Africa. They're not interested in democracy in Africa. They're not. They are only interested in exploiting our mineral resources at dirt cheap prices. Let me back up what I said earlier on in terms of resources, the value of our resources. Let me show you something about I've shown you CFA. I'm going to show you the Naira now and how worthless that is also when you compare it to the dollar. Because, CFA now, when you're going to do anything, you do it in euro. The Europeans buy the goods. They buy it using the same cipher that France printed for them to buy the goods at cheap prices and then sell to us in euros to make at expensive prices. Our chocolate, for example, the chocolates that they're eating, they buy those prices. Let me check a cost. 1 second. Let me check something for you to make you understand what I'm saying. 1 second. Give me a second, please. Just to make this point very, very clear, I'm trying to show you something here. This is the cost of cocoa in Ghana right now. You know cocoa, that's what they use in making chocolates in Switzerland. Guess how much Europe buys this from Ghana? This is why as Africans, we must work rapidly to free ourselves from bondage. We're not free in Africa at all. I'm showing you example. Please, when you get this podcast, share it. Let people understand this is daylight robbery. Let me show you. So, the cost of cocoa per kilo, right? Now, when they buy the cocoa that is going to be ultimately sent to Switzerland for them to make those fine chocolates and sold at expensive prices, the cocoa itself, how much are they buying it per kilo? You're seeing it. It's between 26.88 to 37.63 per kilo. That's what the French farmer, the Ghanaian farmer can get, between 26.88 cedis to 37.63 cedis per kilo. Now, how much is that cedi in relation? How much is 1 cedi in relation to the euro? Because Switzerland is part of Europe, right? So Europe, they will use euro. Let us just check what Switzerland is using. Let me check what they use in Switzerland. What currency? Let's see. What currency does Switzerland use? Yeah, let me just check that for you now. Yeah. So we just want to check. Right, Swiss franc. Okay. They use Swiss franc divided into 10 rap and okay. So they use franc, but they will still, in any case, as well as 1 and 2, so it's divided into ISO code. Okay. So currency exchange, cash exchange. So they got Swiss franc. Yeah. Now, what that means is that they will still buy in collectively. It's not only Switzerland that makes chocolate. They will still all buy it again from Africa using a recognized currency. France, the Swiss will, to make it easier for them and to make it profitable for them, they'll buy it in euro. So let us go and look at euro. Let us go and look at euro in because they are part of Europe. Let's go and look at euro in terms of the cities. Now let's go and look at this now. So I want you to look at this. So for 1 Ghana cedi, yeah, it is only worth less than 1. It is less than 1 cent of the euro. Less than 1 cent of the euro. So you see when they say 26 or 37, when you're buying 37 cedis, when one of that is, 1 of that, so 37 times 0.81, how much would that come up to? How much would 37 times 0.82 come up to? Yeah, let's have a look. You see, it says here, let's go for the top amount, 37.63 times 0.82. Let us do that right now. I'm going to do that on the screen for you because I need you to understand what has been done here. And we've been fleeced for so long. So here we go. So I'm just going to just do this quickly. I want to just get you, so you can get an idea of what's been done here. So let me go 37.63 times 0.82. 37.63 times 0.08. Let me just check that again with you. 2. Okay. So you are looking at €3.08 for 20. That is how much they said is the 37.63 kilos. You said it is worth. It's only worth 3 euros. So you can see the damage that has been done. You can see the damage that has been done here. 3 point. You see, I showed you. Let me just make sure you get that. So I'm trying to show you. If you look on the top here, 1 second. Let me just show you. I'll show you quickly. I'm going to just do this here. Let me make it smaller. Okay. Now, here we go. Can you see that? I want to make sure you see what I'm seeing here. So you can see on there, 7.63 times 0.082. Remember, 0.082 is the cost of, is the euro. Yeah? The euro is the cedis. So now, the cedis now, they're saying they're selling it. They're selling per kilograms. So per kilograms of the chocolate, of the cocoa, only gives them what? 3.08. So you can see that they're making massive, you know, of, I mean, I'm talking about 3p. It's not even 3.30. What am I talking about? I'm talking about 3p. I'm not talking about 3 euros. I'm talking about 3 cents in the euro. 3 cents. 3 cents, not 3 euros. 3 cents. Remember, it's not up to 1. We're talking about 3 cents. You know? So you can see what I'm saying. It should be 1 for 1. Whatever price, if you say it's that price, it should be our currency should be the one determining this, and our currency should be the same value as theirs. So we buy like for like, but what they're doing is depressing our currency to keep us down. I mean, look at that. 3, yeah. I mean, it's worthless. The currency is worthless. It's worthless. So that's why they can afford to buy more of our resources, because this is what they, you know, let's even say it's 3 euros. That means they can buy a lot more. Whereas if it was worth 1 euro per kilo, 1 euro per kilo, yeah, do you know that straight away we will get 1 cedis for 1 euro? So we'll get more money in our own economy. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this makes sense. Please do share what you're seeing on the screen. And this is why, as Africans, we need to wake up. We must wake up. Please, if this resonates with you, please do share. You're watching Citizen Network, the platform where we speak truth to power. Just wanted to talk about this issue about what France has done and the reason for us to really be very, very alert. They are playing a game here. Do not relax for 1 second. Do not relax for 1 second. Oh, just because France are going to pull out. No, France is only doing delay tactics. They are, the military is still going to be there till December. We need to make sure that we're all very clear about that. And we have to keep our eye on the ball. And every African country must do exactly what Niger is doing. Kick out the colonials from African soil. Because they are oppressing us, suppressing us on African soil, exploiting our resources, carrying out economic warfare against Africa on African soil. And enough is enough. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Citizen Network, the platform where we speak truth to power. Don't forget to go ahead and subscribe to Citizen Network, the platform where we speak truth to power. Give me a second. Let me just make sure this is 1 second. So please make sure you subscribe to Citizen Network. How do you go and do that? Go ahead and subscribe. Subscribe to Citizen Network. Hit the notification button. Give us thumbs up. Help us reach more people. So one more time, we will show you that, how to do that. So what do? Subscribe to Citizen Network. Hit the notification button, and of course, give us thumbs up. Help us reach more people. So our message to the people of Niger is: great job for carrying out the intellectual realignment. Be vigilant. Continue to ensure that you put pressure on the military, the French military. They never have rest on your soil because you are sovereigns and you have the power to move them out of your land. They have exploited you for over 40 years. You have the right to kick them out of your land. And other countries, such as what Niger has done, Burkina Faso, Mali, and Guinea have done in kicking out the corrupt French colonials, and the other must be kicked out, along with the other colonials from African soil, because they have oppressed Africa for so long. Generations of Africans have suffered at the hands of this exploitation, and the only way we can do that is to come together as Africa and chase away the colonials from our land. Enough of this oppression in our land. Our resources have been taken at peanut prices. I've just shown you the cocoa prices. I've shown you. Let's even say 37 point. So, it's crazy. So 37 cedis. Yeah, 37 cedis for less than 1 p. 37 cedis for less than 1 p. Less than 1 p. Oh man, we need to wake up. Or 1 cent. 37 cedis is only equivalent to less than 1 cent in the it's crazy. Let's have a look at it. Anyway, you know what I'm saying. You've seen the currency rate I told you here. I've shown you the currency rate here. So one of that, 1 Ghana cedi is worth less than 1p. One of that. So 37 of that is only going to give you 3 point something. I just told you 37. You have to put 37 of the Ghanaian cedi before you can even get 3 cents. Africans, we need to wake up. Ladies and gentlemen, what are your thoughts on this? You're watching Citizen Network, the platform where we speak truth to power. The exploitation of Africa has got to stop. Those of us who are in Europe, please share this message. This is so important. We have all been blinded. As I speak to you right now, as every African should be making every move now to wake up, because we abroad now that we have this information, we need to share it in all our communities so that the people at home can begin to stand up for themselves and begin to stand up for their sovereignty as Africans. Africa must come back to one continent with the people in it, and we must be speaking our languages, our culture, our clothes. I was in after an event on Saturday. I didn't want to go because I was in a lot of pain, but I went. I went in my African clothes. Wonderful event. I will show the pictures when I come and do another discussion with you. I wore, and even though I didn't want to go, I forced myself to go. And we need to be proud of who we are. All of this stuff has been to oppress us psychologically, physically, everything, to ensure that we never ever understand what is really going on. Well, now we do. Ladies and gentlemen, please do share this podcast. You're watching Citizen Network, the platform where we speak truth to power. You're joining us on the day on which France said they are leaving, but we have to keep an eye on France. France will do everything they can to stay in Africa and continue to loot. We must collectively kick out the colonials. All of them must leave Africa because they have oppressed Africa long enough. Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Citizen Network, the platform where we speak truth to power. I'll be back later on. Thank you and bye for now. Please do share, and share. Bye for now.